Ashutosh Gowariker, ETimes welcomes you, and first and foremost, congratulations. Your epic film Lagaan is completing 20 years.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
यार सच बताना when you embarked on this film, you were just in your early 30s.
Yeah.
Did you really think that you're going to make something so special?
Uh, no, actually, no. Uh, I only knew one thing that I'm making something special for that time then. And that's for audiences who will get a chance to see a different world, a different kind of a story, a very mixed genre, because you have sports drama, you have period, you have so many things packed in. But it's really overwhelming. It was overwhelming then, it's overwhelming even today, that the film is getting so much of love and admiration, appreciation. In fact, generations that saw the film then, when the film came out, have introduced the film to new generations. And so even today, I keep getting messages and phone calls about people who are seeing the film for the first time. And that is a very, very good feeling. A filmmaker always wants to tell that story which will become eternal, which will be remembered by audiences. And the attempt is always that. And in this case, it actually is turned out to be a memorable one for us and for the audiences.
Ashutosh, you had said that it is very difficult to convince Aamir for a movie. How
Yeah.
many days, how many months did this one take for him to say yes?
Oh, it took about at least 6 months to a year, where I kept, um, connecting with him, trying to tell him that after his initial rejection, um, I knew that he was not completely convinced about it. And so I knew that I had to go back and work out few more details and expand it more, make it more palatable, make it more believable. And so when I went back to him, I knew that now this is my last chance, where I'm trying to give him a full, complete narration of what how I'm seeing the film. Uh, and then he got convinced. But wait a minute, he got convinced only to act. We were still looking for the producer. And then finally, it took him another 6 months to be convinced that he will produce it himself. So it was a long process, um, but quite a fruitful one, I would say.
But correct me if I'm wrong, you had a very tough time in finding somebody who will back the film. I remember you saying that some maker also told you इसमें कुछ ऐसा डाल दो जो end में uh, the stumps are taken by the winners
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
put into the stomach of the losers to create a
yeah,
dramatic finish.
yeah.
ऐसा क्या था जो उस वक्त जो माइंडसेट था प्रोड्यूसर्स का वो बैक नहीं कर रहे थे इस पिक्चर को.
No, there were multiple reasons. One was that period films were not working, and if you made a film on a sport like cricket, none of the cricket films before that had worked. This was not the time when you made films on a village life. Your hero couldn't be a villager wearing a dhoti. So there were so many negatives to it that it was difficult to convince a producer to say yes to it. Um, and even if you did, a lot of times, a producer would try to bring in his own commercial understandings to the film. Like the case that you mentioned, that there was this one producer who loved it and said, "It's great, and we must do this. I just want to introduce one small change." And I said, "Okay, what is that change?" He said, "In the end, after Bhuvan's team wins, uh, Bhuvan should remove the stump and put that stump in Russell's stomach as a revolutionary end." So I just looked at him and said, "Sir, that's the very point of the film, that we are trying to make a non-violent film. It's a revolution, but it's not a revolution with guns. It's a revolution with or swords. It's a revolution with a bat and a ball. So that'll get missed. So he said, no, no, nothing doing. If you can give me this end, then we'll go ahead and make the film. So I said that, so if you want this end, then I'll write another script which will have this end. But Lagaan will remain the way it is. So had to part. Uh, because I thought that the basic fundamentals of the script should not be touched. The very purpose of why you're making the film.
तो आप एक सीन चेंज करने के लिए तैयार नहीं थे और वो भी एक सीन के लिए ना सुनने के लिए तैयार नहीं था.
Yeah. But I think that was good because sometimes what happens is commercial aspects are so many that you start applying the commercialism to every situation in the film. You can start applying your commercial. I do the same even today. You learn with every film and you try and apply, how can I make this more entertaining? How can I make this more interesting? How can I make it more engaging for an audience? And when you start applying that, you're applying that to dialogue, you're applying it to songs, you're applying it to visuals, you're applying it to everything. But in a script of this nature, when you are trying to create a fundamentally a different world, then it needs to be approached very, very differently. And so I was willing to sacrifice the producer, but not the script.
That makes me ask, if you were to remake this film today, would you have done it differently? And what would you have changed?
No, not at all. I would have made it exactly the same way. Maybe because the times have changed, and we definitely since 2010, our time span, our attention span has really decreased. We also don't have patience for 5-day matches. We don't have patience for 1-day internationals. We want to see a quick fix of a cricket match in the evening, 7 to 9, and that should be over. So in these times, I would try and reduce the length of the film. But Aamir jokes with me. Aamir says, "nahi, aaj bhi agar hum karte to, it would have been the same length." But I feel that we would have made best efforts to try and keep it slightly tighter, but tell the same story and tell it exactly the same way. I wouldn't change anything else.
But पहला draft जो बना था without any cuts was something like 7 hours 30 minutes. Something with one which
no, it wasn't that long. I think that's a wrong figure. The duration of the first cut of the film was 4 hours and 5 minutes thereabouts, and then we removed from that about 18 to 20 minutes to release the 3 hour 42-minute film. And those 18 minutes also it was like cutting off our arm, because that also was a great track in the film where Captain Russell plays unfair. He plants a complete cricket kit into the village and says that Bhuvan and his team have stolen this, and gets them jailed. And then how Elizabeth comes around and gets them out of jail. So it was a very, very interesting track. It's there for people to see even now. At that time, it releases on DVD, but I think it's available to see on YouTube also now.
You find it very difficult to cut films. I'm not saying that 20 minutes which you cut were not the arm of the film or not a arm of the film.
Yeah.
Why is it that you end up generally making longer films?
It's the genre that I choose, I think. When you're talking about an epic drama or you're trying to make a historical, that genre is such that it needs screen time. If I'm making an action film or a thriller, then that has a specific screen time, and that should be not more than 90 minutes to 2 hours. But a drama usually takes up that much time. Even if you look at world cinema, not just Hollywood, all the huge historicals or period dramas are all clocking 3 hours. So even if you look at Lord of the Rings, every Lord of the Rings is 3 hours duration. So I think it's the genre that you choose. And I have been in love with this the period film and the historical, because I enjoy creating a bygone era or a different world, a part of history that we don't know anything about. that interests me. And so naturally they are slightly long.
Would you still embark on an extravagant film in today's times, especially considering the COVID times and the effect it is going to have on the economy of the industry?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I missed your line. Will
I
I
said,
embark on a?
would you still embark on an extravagant film in today's times? You
Oh
know,
yeah, absolutely. Yes, I don't think. See, COVID is it's the worst pandemic that has hit us. I agree, and its nature of pandemic is so much that it's going to be around for another 2 years, 3 years. It will take a lot of time to control it. But I don't think cinema will change. Cinema is on pause. I think entertainment is on pause in the theater. But if you look at the audiences, they have immediately shifted to all the OTT platforms where you're still watching all the great extravagant web series or even movies. So I don't think it's genre specific. I think cinema will explore all the different forms that we want to. Anyone can tell the story that they want to tell. So I would still make another extravagant film, but at a slightly later stage.
Aamir has been thanking you profusely everywhere, for making this film. I think one of the reasons is that he met Kiran Rao on the sets of your film, and that changed his life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's sweet of Aamir to, thank me. It's the other way around, actually. I thank him because Aamir was always a huge star. And I was someone who, we had made Bazi together. And Bazi was a plus film, but it's not a certified hit of sorts.
Hmm.
But it definitely kind of put me in my direction career on a pause at that time. And it was Aamir who, whatever it is, however long he took to get convinced, he did get convinced. He said yes, and he also produced it, and that kind of brought me back as a director. So I like to thank Aamir always. It's the other way around actually.
But what was the clincher? I mean, he said yes, but what was that flashpoint?
The flashpoint of saying yes was that I think we always keep evolving. Every 6 months we see a new film, a new movie. And I'm talking only about movie business right now. You see a new movie which you get really inspired by, and your thought processes change about that genre. You feel, oh, I could have made that film,
Hmm.
or I could have played that part. So I think that evolution is a process for every creative person. So for me to go back to Aamir, narrate it, and for Aamir to be slightly more receptive at that time, maybe there's a certain kind of change that happened in him where he felt that, oh, I now see the script in a different way, and this is something that I definitely like to do. So you can't actually really pin down on one big flashpoint moment of sorts.
Would you agree that Lagan was the film that changed Amir Khan's career? It completely took him into a different level, and after that, the way he was thinking on the scripts
Yeah,
was
yeah,
far more different than
yeah,
before, which I
yeah.
guess from his lineup of films.
I think definitely it got enhanced, but I must tell you that before Lagan also, Amir was always experimenting with new stuff. So he was the guy who did say Earth. He did Sarfarosh. He attempted even Bazi was an action hero film, and he was very safe in his romantic hero image, but he wanted to attempt something different, and so he consented. So he was someone that was always trying to do different things. He was the one who decided that I will do one film a year, when every other hero and every other actor was trying to do multiple films. So he was charting his own path. Sure, Lagan gave him a lot of, it enhanced his thought process in terms of, okay, if this is successful, now I can, experiment further. I can keep doing mainstream and keep experimenting on different topics. So definitely, it's helped him, but it was always in his genes to keep experimenting and doing different things.
Do you think all the characters of Lagan have aged well?
Absolutely, I feel they have aged well because my biggest barometer is since 2000, our cricket team has always undergone a change.
Hmm.
Our IPL teams have always undergone a change. But each time there is a victory, people will always use references of Lagan to say that the match of what we saw today
Hmm.
has a recall value like Lagan. And if someone bowls well, it becomes Kachara's bowling. If someone bats well, it's Bhuvan. If someone fields well, it's Isar Chacha. So I think uh, they have become iconic.
Hmm.
Bhuvan's 11 has got their own standing. It's a team of players that have now become eternal.
The movie released in 2001, Ashutosh, and at a time when India's relationship with cricket itself was fraught. The match fixing scandal which had broken out in 2000 and rumors of it were floating all through the late 90s. Now, of course, that gave you a crucial plot point in the movie. But while your film was being made and in the time leading up to its release, people were disillusioned with cricket, if you agree with me, actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did that change the way you approached the film at any point? Did you have any second thoughts while you were in the middle of it?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because I still maintain one thing that Lagan is also about cricket. My main motive and theme in the film that excited me to write this was that people from different backgrounds coming together to fight a common enemy. It's in another way you can say it's the underdog achieving the impossible. It's the oppressor being fought back, where the oppressed are standing up in unison. So I think those were the themes that were more important for me. It happened to be a game of cricket, and since cricket is such a national pastime, that it becomes more engaging and more entertaining to see because everyone knows the game too
It was a big honor to be in the top five, but disappointment to zarur hua hoga when you didn't win the Oscars. And why do you think it didn't happen? Because I think the closest we came for getting an Oscar on the best film
well.
was Lagan. वो
Yeah,
क्यों नहीं
yeah.
हुआ? लोग कह रहे थे कि बहुत लॉबी करना पड़ता है, क्या वो कम पड़ गई या फिर कुछ और हुआ?
See, when you say lobby, I would say create awareness. I won't use the word lobby. So we created enough awareness for us to find ourselves in the last five, which
Hmm.
itself was a great achievement.
Hmm.
Of course, we should have won. So it's despairing. At that time, we were really saddened that we didn't make it as the uh, as a top winner. But I think that I believe in juries and I respect juries, and every jury has got its own heartbeat.
Hmm.
Every jury tends to gravitate towards a film of that year, and the film of that year, which they felt strongly, was a film about another uh, country that was going through its problem, which is no man's land. So I think that is something that you cannot control. You cannot control any jury. It can be our awards, any of the awards, can be a magazine award or the national award. It's a jury that decides. And whatever the decision, I like to respect it, believe in it, stick with it.
You think Mira
But yes, you do feel sad.
you think Mira Nair was justified in getting angry because she always had this notion that monsoon wedding would have made it.
See, when a film is being selected to be sent, there always will be the person who does not get selected can get upset because everyone sets out their heart into that their film should go. I don't think we should get into those aspects because then I can talk about so many films I feel of mine that could have gone. I mean, if films haven't gone, it's okay. It's ultimately you have to also respect the Film Federation of India who decides which film is worthy to be sent, and that's something that you must respect and adhere to.
You had a tough time in casting the heroine, I also believe. Uh, how did you find Gracie Singh? Because reportedly, Preeti Zinta, Sonali Bendre, Amisha Patel were the names floating then who had refused to do the film.
Yeah, I was looking for someone who does not have. There needs to be some amount of innocence and of freshness in the being of Gauri,
Hmm.
and and due to that, it became important for me to find that in the actress. But the established heroines were all fabulous. They were such big stars that they were already carrying a baggage of their own personas,
Hmm.
and that became a little bit deterrent. So when I started looking for the new fresh face, there was this television series called Amanat, which was on high on TRPs at that time, and
Yeah.
Gracie was in that series, and it became uh, important that we audition her before we take the call. And when she came for the audition, she learned the lines. And then when we went on the floor and I said action, the first line that she said, because I was testing her for the scene of Lovers Hill, when Bhuvan and Gauri meet on the hill on top.
Hmm.
And the way she said those lines, I instantly knew that this is Gauri. So it was quite a eureka moment, because we were not. She came from a very unknown, very different quarter, and she was a trained Bharatnatyam dancer. She was very graceful.
Hmm.
So Radha Kaise Na Jale was a very important song in the film that needed to show the prowess of Gauri, because that's where she wants to prove that she's superior to Elizabeth. Um, and I think Gracie is loved till to, till the day, and till today, she gets a lot of appreciation for how she played Gauri.
In that famous rain song in Lagan, you had a sort of a creative tiff with Anil Mehta. He's been vocal about it. That there was large amount of argument, large amount of discussion going on about the light aspect of it. Could
Yeah,
you take
yeah,
us
yeah.
through that, your version?
My version, no, no, we're on the same page. Um, um, we never had arguments. We were trying to arrive on some kind of creative solution to that, because in the second half of the Antara of Ghanan, it is important to have an overcast sky.
Hmm.
And we had chosen Bhuj as a location because of its aridity, because of its beauty in its aridity. So landscape wise, we knew कि बादल कभी भी नहीं आएंगे यहाँ पे. In fact, with Reena and Rao Sahab, we had a pact that if ever it's a cloudy day, we'll have to cancel shoot. And of all the days of shooting in Bhuj, the cancellation happened only, I think, twice.
Hmm.
Where we had clouds and we can't shoot with the clouds there. So for the song, it became important that it should be overcast
Hmm.
because the clouds have now covered the sun. And so it involved us shooting every day from 5 in the evening to 7 p.m. till because uh, that's where the light had to be correct. And I think by sheer rehearsals, our rehearsal would start at 2 in the afternoon, for a shoot at 5 o'clock. So it was a tough one to do, but finally we managed to do that. So there was a lot of discussion on how should we actually be able to do it. Where Anil, who's a fabulous cinematographer, and ultimately he was going to create it. So it had to be his call as to what should be the best solution to arrive on that. And
Right.
I think he managed very well.
You argued with him that ये light कहाँ से आ रही है क्योंकि उस जमाने में light नहीं थी. And in the gist of the moment, he said, उस time background score भी तो नहीं था.
Yeah, but that is a joke. So in the houses, inside the house,
Hmm.
we were trying to find what will be the source of light for the faces. And since it was my first film in a period where I was getting into a zone of where there's no electricity.
Hmm.
Now, how do you like it?
Hmm.
So Anil has a very sharp sense of humor. In him saying that, okay, if there's no electricity, what about background music? So it was a banter, it was a joke that we had throughout the film. Uh, but finally, I think Anil's contribution to the film is immense, because even to maintain continuity of the climax action, the cricket match sequence, was quite a task, because the sun at some points would be sharp, sometimes it would be silky, there would be very soft light, but he had to somehow make it look seamless and give the feel as if the match is happening at the same time. So that was quite a big task.
Would you agree that the most dramatic moment of the film is that catch taken by the same actor, by the same character who was accused in the film of match fixing? And
Yeah,
आप मतलब उस वक्त अजहरुद्दीन का ये सब चल रहा था, that whole he was also accused of that, and वो ख्याल उस वक्त आ ही जाता है कि वो you correlate with the actor, and he was also a fantastic fielder. Did anybody
the
tell you?
audiences might have the audiences might have correlated it, but we were not even thinking about that. We were not even there. I was in 1893. When I'm making a film, I go back in time. So uh, what is interesting about Lakha's catch for us was that when someone betrays or breaks your trust,
Yeah.
heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for the person, and if it's an entire team, it's heartbreaking for the entire team. And when that person tries to regain the trust by doing something noble, by doing something which is trying to repair that wrong that he himself has done, it's a very big high. So Lakha doing that became a very taking that particular catch became the turning point in that sense.
We wish and we hope that you make many more Lagans. To be very honest, when you showed us the trailer at the Gateway of India and it was pouring and you had taken the media there, I, for one, did not believe that this movie will click. I have gone wrong twice in my career. Distinctly, of course, I've not seen all the trailers beforehand. And the second one was on Munna by MBBS, when I thought, what is happening? And here also, I thought, what is happening? This movie is unlikely to click. But I'm glad that you proved me wrong, and so did Raju Hirani. Thank you so much, Ashu. Thank you so much.